Welcome folks to this week's project on Beach Bum Living, where I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. So this week's project is a cool little wood desk that I picked up in an estate sale. And the idea that I have with refinishing it this week is I'm going to make it look like it was pieced together from reclaimed wood. Meaning each individual piece of the desk, I'm going to paint it a different color, sand it a different way, and it's just going to give it that old salvage look, like it was pieced together from just different wood that was reclaimed from different projects. And I just think it's going to give it a really cool look. So to top it off, I already have somebody in mind who I plan on giving this project away to. She just happens to be my favorite little girl in this entire world, and who also happens to be graduating kindergarten in a couple weeks. And I just want to let her know how proud I am of her. And I just think this project will give her a special little place where she can come home from school and set her books down and be able to do her homework. And I think she'll just appreciate it and cherish it over the years. And I just think overall she's going to love it. As you can see on the side, the panels, there's a couple of different pieces of wood where I'd paint this one a different color than this one, and then sand away some of it to give it that really old look. But I think it's a really neat look, because I've seen projects where they actually are made from reclaimed wood and they look awesome. So I mean, I really think you can still give a piece like this that look. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is lightly sand the entire piece, not all the way down to bare wood, because I don't plan on restaining it, and I like the way it looks as it is. So the parts that aren't going to be painted, or it's going to have some of the exposed wood, I want to undercoat the wood to look just like this. So I'm just going to give it a light sanding, and there's going to be a couple of little things that I have to do also after I sand it, because it is going to have that reclaimed wood look. So it's going to have a lot of exposed wood that's not painted. I'm going to have to do a little bit of taping, especially on places like, for instance, on the inside here. I don't plan on doing anything to this. I like the way it looks. I like the color stain that's on it, and I like how it's already kind of beat up and aged. So I'm not even going to mess with it. But what I will have to do is tape off some of this where I do plan on painting, and I don't want the paint to bleed over into this section. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of taping on a couple of locations. But those are going to be my first steps. I'm going to lightly sand it and then do some taping. Okay, with me finishing all the prep work that needs to be done on the desk, all the sanding, all the taping off that needs to be done, my next step is going to be to paint. I have all my paints out, and on this project I'm going to need to use a lot of different colors of paint, and I really don't have that many different paints. I have like 3 different colors and then a white. But I also wanted to show you, I have this bin of a ton of different colors of acrylic paint. And if you have a white base, or even like if I wanted to use this blue and make it a darker blue, I can add some more of this blue into like a little Dixie cup, just a small portion of the paint, and I can make my own new color without having to go to the store and buy like a whole pint or whatever. So this is really handy to use these acrylic paints when you need a color that you don't have. Okay, so I've put down all the initial paint that I want to put down, and you can kind of start to see the idea that I was talking about, having each different piece of wood a different color to really give it that reclaimed look. And you also can see what I was talking about earlier when I was showing you that acrylic paint and how you can mix your own paints, because I only have actually 3 different colors of paint, and using my white I was able to use some of that acrylic paint and mix up and make my own colors and get all these different colors. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to want to do is to give it that really old aged look, and I'm actually going to use some of the techniques that I used in my last project where I'm going to paint a wood grain on some of these panels that are painted and then sand away some of the paint, and it's just going to give it that really aged look that I'm after. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with all the sanding that I'm going to need to do, and as you can see, it's really starting to get that old aged look, and I just wanted to show you guys how I'm accomplishing this. I have a couple of different grades of sandpaper. The lower the number, the coarser it is, the more paint it's going to take off, and of course the higher the number is more fine and kind of like a finishing sandpaper. But I got several different kinds. I have a sanding block that in a couple of locations it's handy because it's kind of like a sponge and it can really get into the groove, so this is also handy. And on some of the parts I also use my hand sander. Not too much of it though, because those power sanders will take off a lot of the paint, and I didn't want to take off too much of it, so this is what I got so far. And of course on some of the parts where the wood actually is a separate piece of wood, it was easy to have that natural line where I painted it 2 different colors. But on some of these big sections, like this big front piece where it was just one piece of wood, to give it that reclaimed wood look, you know, I left a couple sections just completely bare. And the idea was that, say like this was up on a storefront somewhere, and at one time, you know, this might have had a piece of wood like this right here, and then they had painted it. Well, of course, up under this wood, it wouldn't be painted, it would be bare. So with it being reclaimed, with it having that reclaimed wood look, now it looks like this had been pulled off, this was still bare, and then the rest was painted. So that's what, I have a couple of sections where I did that on, where I just left it like that, and I just think it really gives it a cool look. So with all the sanding done on the painted portions of the project, you probably noticed that I've left some of it just bare wood, for instance these legs. And I don't plan on painting these, but I do plan on staining them. And the idea was to paint, maybe stain them different colors. See on these legs how they're separated, like there's an inside portion where it was a piece of wood and there's the outside portion. Well, to give it that even more pieced together look, I plan on staining them different colors. For instance, like that inside I might stain darker than the outside, so it's even going to give it that more pieced together look that I'm looking for. So I'm completely done with all the painting and sanding that needs to be done, and to add a personal touch, I added my daughter's name by just using colored pencils and a stencil. I was able to put her name on, and it gives it already that older look. So I initially planned on painting it on and then having to sand a little bit of it away, but by just using the colored pencils, it didn't go on that great, so it kind of already gives it that faded look, which I think is cool. And I just think she's really going to love it when she sees her name on it like that. So the last thing I'm going to need to do is put a clear coat on, and I'm just going to put a clear coat on the parts where I had painted it, not on the bare wood sections, because I'm going to want those to kind of get aged and fade over time. But where I have painted, I'm going to put a clear coat on it just to protect it and to preserve it and leave it and have it look the way it looks for a long time. So I hope you guys like this week's project, and remember, if you have any comments or questions, leave them in the section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I plan on doing these projects weekly. I don't want you guys to miss a single project, because these projects are going to be awesome. So stay tuned. See you next week. I gotta go get in that water because it is hot as crap out here, and I gotta go. So aloha.